everybody, it's me, Chasey Poo, and today I'm going to be talking about transition regrets. I recently celebrated 11 years on T, and going through such big milestones, it definitely gets you thinking about certain things in your life, and regrets, and transition, and doubts, and all of these things that you've experienced once more, which is very interesting. Maybe that's just me though. I feel like I'm very reflective when these days come along, and I really, because I've documented everything, I'm able to like look back at certain things, and it's just such a beautiful moment for me, and it really helps to contemplate a lot of different things. So I think about this a lot. Do I have any transition regrets? And yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. So I realized I was trans when I was 15, all right? I repressed it. And then I was like accepting it again. And then I was like, there's no way I'm trans. This is disgusting. No, I would like delete everything. I would throw out all of the books that I bought and all these things. And then I would just repress it. And knowing that it was gonna come back, but I would still repress it. It would come back, again, repress it. And eventually I just kind of had to accept myself. And that did not happen until I was 18. And I know that from 15 to 18 is only 3 years, and it doesn't sound like a lot. However, when you're younger, time goes by so slowly, and 3 years feels like 10 years. So now I'm 30, and 3 years is nothing. When I look forward to something, I'm like, it's in 3 years? Nah. It's a little far, but it's not super far. But when I was a kid, 3 years, that was a lot. So going back and forth for like 3 years was a lot on me mentally. So when I was 18, I felt like I could finally transition because I didn't want to tell my dad because I was so scared that he was gonna leave me and like be dramatic and stuff. So I actually went to my first gender assessment by myself, where I stood in front of a panel and explained to them who I am and how I feel in my gender identity. That went horribly, all right? And I actually ended up not getting into the program and not being able to transition at that time because they felt I wasn't trans enough, which was a big blow for me, honestly, because I had been repressing it for so long, and then now you have all these experts that tell you you're not trans. It was hard on me. I found a way around it, and I was able to find my own private therapist and my own endocrinologist, and I was able to start hormones. So I started hormones when I was 19. This was June 16th, 2010. The months went by, and I felt like the changes were too much for me. I know that this just sounds like I'm talking about my transition timeline, but trust me, it relates. It was around 10 or 11 months where I really looked in the mirror and I could not recognize myself, and that was scary. I'm somebody that has a lot of abandonment issues, and I have a lot of issues with change, which I know is so funny because I'm trans and I want to change, but that's just how I feel. So when my 1 year on T came up, I decided I would go off of testosterone. I made a video telling people I felt like I was still trans. I just needed to go off of hormones because I felt like the changes were too fast for me. I also felt like I needed to fit into this rigid identity box, and like I still kind of identified as a lesbian and so on. That caused a lot of issues with people, and I had to like kind of convince people like, hey, I'm not detransitioning, I'm still trans, I'm just going off of T for a bit. Which at that time, let me tell you, like no one had done that, and that was really like really bad, like dramatic. People were not happy about that. I just, wow. I mean, I got some support, which was great, but lots of hate. Anyways, months and months go by. I think it's like 10 months in where I'm off of T, and I'm like, you know what? I think I'm ready again to start. So I decided to start again, but I made sure that I would start at the starting dose. So usually they give you a starting dose, and after a couple of months, they raise you up. That raised dose was too much for me. It made me frustrated and angry and aggravated, and I felt like the changes were too fast because of that dose. So when I went back on, I made sure to always be on the lower starting dose. That went well for me, and I haven't stopped since, because I definitely felt like I needed that little like 10, 11 month break in order to recoup myself and figure out like, what do I want in this transition? Who am I? And so on. So now that I'm back on T, we're in 2012, I decide I should have top surgery. This is when everyone has top surgery. And I say it like that because I definitely felt a little bit of pressure to have top surgery, and that's not something I've ever really talked about or that anybody ever really talks about, but it was really important for me to like explain that right now. I booked my top surgery, and I was so stressed out that I wasn't ready that I canceled it. And that was really hard for me to admit and to do, but I'm really glad that I did because I really needed that time to reflect. So canceling the top surgery that I was originally going to have in 2012 was one of the biggest and best thing I've ever done for myself. That year, I spent every day in a binder in the summer, and it was very hot, and that kind of reinforced, like, you know what, I think top surgery in the future would be right for me. Maybe not right now, but it really like helped me reflect. So as time went by, I actually did end up booking my top surgery for the year afterwards. So I had top surgery May 30th, 2013. Now I want to tell you, those 2 moments where I kind of took a break, right, where I went off of hormones and when I didn't have top surgery when I scheduled it. I want to tell you that maybe for some people that would be regret, I didn't do it sooner, or I should have never gotten off T. To me, those are the biggest forms of self-care I could have ever done for myself, and I am so glad that I had the intellect to do that for myself, because I look back at who I was 10 years ago and I don't understand how I was able to get to that conclusion. Maybe I was doing it for different reasons, I'm not sure. But what's really important is that I can reflect on that today and say I literally regret none of that. Going off of T for those months was amazing for me because I was able to learn so much about myself and so much about who I am and what I needed. And what I needed was to be on hormones at a lower dose. Back then, there was no such thing as like microdosing. Like, no one knew what that was. It would have been great if people knew. I feel like I would have been less pressured, but you know what? I probably still would have went off of T. And then same thing with top surgery. I'm just so glad that I took that break. There are no regrets there at all. And then from top surgery on till now, not much has changed. I've tried different forms of testosterone. I've been on the gel, still am. I've tried the nasal spray, don't recommend it. And I feel like I've come to an understanding in a place where I know who I am and I know what I want, and that feels great, and all that reflection that I've done in the last couple of years has helped that. However, I do have some transition regrets, and it hurts to talk about these because I haven't really ever talked about them openly. I regret not telling my dad when I knew, and I know that it's a different world that we live in now where like people actually know what trans people are, and I feel like that's probably like warping my mind a little bit, but I feel like if I would have straight up told him when I was 16 or when I was 15 and figured it out, like, hey, I need to talk to you, I think we should go to therapy, I feel like that would have been such a next step. However, I did not have the emotional or mental or like mature capacity to do that. So it is a regret, but I know that I couldn't have helped it, especially back then, there was no representation. I literally saw a video of Jazz on YouTube that was like, she was, I don't know, what was he, like 2 or 4 years old? And that was huge for me. I wouldn't have been able to show my dad this video of Jazz and be like, that's me. Like, that would not have made sense. So I'm really glad that today there's so much representation, not only on YouTube, but like actual TV representation, and like people who are celebrities are coming out and they're like trans, and that's amazing because now people know what trans people are in a good way. Back then, if I would have said I'm transgender, it would not have gone over really well. He's a super accepting and open-minded person. Literally the one thing he's ever wanted is for me to be happy. That's it. And I knew that, but I was still terrified of telling him. So it's so hard for me to not like be mad at my younger self for not doing that and regretting it, but I also have to like learn to accept and give myself care and like care for that younger self that I knew I didn't really have any other choice. So yes, I have regrets, but I'm trying to learn to like unregret these regrets, I guess, because there's things that you can't change. So I'm trying to have compassion for myself and compassion for my younger self, but I'm still dealing with that, and it is a little bit hard. I don't regret starting YouTube, and I don't regret like taking a photo of myself every day. I feel like one of my mottos in life is like, don't regret it. I'm actually very close now to the midpoint of my transition life. Now, let me explain what that means. So I figured out I was trans when I was 15. It was the end of 15 though, okay? Like I was about to turn 16. So I'm 30 now, so in a couple of months, I will have reached the point where I've known I was trans the same amount that I didn't know I was trans. And in a couple of years, I'll reach the point where I have now been trans and transitioning and been me and Chase and who I am for longer than I wasn't. And I know that that doesn't sound like a big deal for a lot of people, especially if you're cis and you don't understand that, but it's such a big thing because I felt like I've struggled like more than half my life, and now it's gonna be switched where I've been happy and myself for more than half my life, and that is a breakthrough moment that I cannot wait to achieve. It's like having achievement badges. Like I have my like 10 plus years on T badge and my like 5 plus years top surgery badge. I feel like that's the next badge that I want to earn, and I'm very excited for that. I'm very excited. I absolutely am so happy with how I've dealt with my transition and always made it my own. I didn't fit into the blocks that other people put and set for me. I was not ready for top surgery. I felt like I was pressured to have top surgery because everyone around me was having top surgery and everyone was talking about top surgery, and that's not everyone's fault or like society's fault. I'm just saying that I personally felt pressured because I felt like I needed to fit into this trans mold where you're on T. 2 years later, you have top surgery. Like, that was always the mold that I thought you had to fit in. So making my transition my own and like navigating the world through that, even at a time where people didn't really do that and they just kind of fit in, was very challenging for me, but also very amazing, and it like very relieving. At this point in my life, I can look back and say I'm so glad that I decided to do these things the way that I did them. Anyways, this turned into some like a wholesome video, I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and let me know how long you've been transitioning for, and when is your half-life, your trans life. We need to figure out a better way to call it that, honestly. Let's find a different word for it, because I don't even know what it's called, but you know what I'm talking about. At what age will you attain the I've been myself more than I wasn't? What age is that? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you later. Have a great day. Bye.